kindly tell us who you are and what you do?
So I'm Aaron Cezar, and I'm the director of Delfina Foundation. Delfina Foundation is an independent arts charity set up by Delfina Entre Canales, and it includes Mark Muller as one of our board members. We have worked with Beyond Borders for the last 5 years on different visual arts collaborations. The very first year included a touring exhibition of Kurdish photography, images bearing witness to the amazing kind of culture of the Kurdish peoples, taken by people like Susan Mizelis, Tom Kerrigan, and Ed Kashi. And this exhibition we first staged in London several years ago, and we were able to kind of put the exhibition back together for a showing in Glasgow at the Migrants Resource Centre, and then later came here to Traquair at the first Beyond Borders International Festival. And alongside that exhibition, we also programmed a series of other visual arts activities, including kind of films at Edinburgh Film House, which now has become an ongoing program for Beyond Borders. And also last year was Manaud Adoyan's really arresting series of images called I Am, which we staged with Beyond Borders at the Clinton Global Initiative, and as well as here at Traquair to speak about the role of women in the Middle East, particularly at this particular time when it's facing immense turbulence in terms of kind of economic, kind of cultural, and also political, in terms of these particular aspects of the Middle East.
Thank you very much. And tell us, why did you link with Beyond Borders? What's the central idea behind all these different exhibitions through the years?
Well, it was a natural synergy between the two organizations who are both trying to give kind of voices to those who aren't normally at the table. It's that simple a gesture. With Delfina Foundation, for the last 7 years, we've worked very closely with the Middle East, North Africa, and South Asia. And if you look at Beyond Borders kind of program over the last kind of 5 years or so, it's also how to focus on those areas, but also other parts of the world, like the Middle East, North Africa, and South Asia, that's undergoing a re-evaluation kind of itself. And particularly thinking about other small nations like Scotland, that punch above their weight, but also look to each other for support and for guidance. So what can kind of Scotland learn kind of from Palestine? What can Palestine learn from Scotland? And Raja Shahade, who kind of has visited Beyond Borders on several occasions, this amazing kind of writer who writes about the Palestinian landscape, has also walked the hills of Scotland and talked about its history. And as that similarity, that synergy between that way of thinking about creative activity and culture is one that both Beyond Borders and Delfina Foundation shares.
Thank you. And tell me about the project that you are involved with this year. What's it called and what's it about?
The project we're currently involved in is called The Politics of Food. And there was a session at this year's Beyond Borders that focused on that with Paul McMahon, who's the author of Feeding Frenzy. And in many ways, the panel itself, bringing together myself, who work in the visual arts, Paul, who is, of course, an immense kind of expert on kind of food policy, along with Oscar, was a way of actually thinking about how we are trying to look broadly at issues related to kind of food in our global kind of economic system. And what we're looking to do is to bring together artists alongside activists, alongside scientists, to think about how creativity and creative thinking can be a way of shifting policy towards food globally. It's huge, it's ambitious. For us, it's a 4-year project. And we started in a very subtle way by bringing together this year 41 artists, kind of curators and scientists, to think about the politics of food over 3 months and to explore their thinking through public events and activities. So there were panel discussions, there was an exhibition, there was a series of different performances, and I don't want to make it sound like fluff at the same time, because often people talk about kind of the visual arts, it's like the icing on the cake. What we're trying to do is actually creative culture, A, bakes the cake, and then B, can put the icing on it. But often, they're not invited to the table to do that. Often they're just invited to make something really pretty. So we're trying to look at how the thinking that's embedded within kind of artists and how they can solve problems and think about problem solving can be adapted to tackle some of the bigger challenges of the world, which often aren't addressed because at the first hurdle everyone kind of collapses and doesn't want it. But artists tend to go around the hurdle and keep going forth and comes back later and find a way to kind of resolve certain issues and then move forward. And that's how artistic practice kind of takes place. So if we can embed that way of thinking about artistic practice, into our everyday cultural practices, and our way in which we approach kind of the bigger issues of the world, we think that maybe some achievement could be made. So this is the very beginning, before your project. This is our first kind of collaboration beyond borders on this first year, which is great. I hope that collaboration continues, because I think it's the best partner to be exploring and tackling these issues in a place like Scotland, in a place like Traquair, which of course is in a rural context. And you can't talk about food without thinking about kind of the rural, the farmer, the peasant. It's a starting point for our global economic system. It often ends up, of course, in a kitchen, where the mothers of the world experience the world's turmoils on a dinner plate, or in the shops they try and buy them. So it's really important to unpack kind of all of these contemporary issues and the history, the immense history that goes behind kind of what's actually on our plate, what we actually eat.